ODEON is a 2001 visual novel that has become a cult classic within the community of old visual novel collectors and often goes for high prices on the internet. The game itself is odd. It's often described as being difficult to understand due to its esoteric nature. The creation of the game itself is also somewhat mysterious as there is not much information online about the game's creative process. The game was released under the company Boku as the only game on their brand. The people who made the game, however, are known. The director behind the game was a man named Shimodate Tadashi, or his pseudonym Date. Known for his previous titles he has been involved with, like the lesser-known Aoki Shinjuku, Izanagi Densho 2010 Banki Tanjo, and another game often sought by collectors called One Night Heaven. These games, excluding Aoki Shinjuku, were released under a subsidiary of Date's company, Dotman, called Black Butterfly. They also had another subsidiary where it seems they made more commercial games. Based on the Dotman website, it seems the goal was to create games that went against the grain of the common ADV game. Another figure involved with some of these games is the artist Hakuya Ugetsu, who is still somewhat active on the internet and maintains a similar style as seen in the games. Another person credited as being involved with the scenario writing is a man named Aoyanagi Uiro, but pretty much everyone involved in the game seemed to have moved on to other things. The Dotman website in September 2001 seems to show there were 3 more games planned, including a game with a name called Evia that seems to have a similar art style to ODEON, as well as a story snippet that reads, "The world is seen by each of the 3 Evias, a cruise into the spiritual world that unfolds in 3 different eras. Infinity Trip Game." There are 2 more projects referred to as Project Iety and Project Blue that are listed as being in planning stages. They also say they are looking to develop a game for the Xbox apparently. Around October they would announce a DVD they were working on called Brain Dive. Based on the visuals and writing presented, it seems to be an abstract piece about the workings of the mind. The style and how this page explaining the project is explained definitely feels like something the creators of ODEON would put together. I am unsure if any copies of this project exist anywhere, or if it was just left unreleased. Later in 2002, it is said they were planning to screen in only 1 theater. We also get more detail as to what the film is actually about. In 2002, they would also add a new game in the planning list called Project Link that is listed as an avant-garde game. We also get an updated statement on who Dotman is and what their goals are. We are currently working on various projects with about 10 creators mainly in Tokyo. We have 3 pillars in place: literature, systems, and visuals. We are now able to run the line with a considerable capacity. The style of the work seems to focus on avant-garde and spiritual subjects. That is, we want to create titles that will not be withered by the times. Our approach is to build reality and unreality with our own unique worldview. We also have a variety of planners, so we can develop various media and merchandise. Our goals are to establish our brand color in the software we release, and introduce various next-generation and experimental works to the world. We aim to create a comprehensive media project that links PC games, DVD software, and each other. We would like to work with like-minded creators and sponsors who are willing to cooperate with our project to make it a successful and fruitful project. The Boku group has no mention anywhere on the Dotman website that I could find, so the specific creation for that group for ODEON is fairly odd, as it seems to fit right into the goals of Dotman, and the game Ivia seems to be a spiritual successor from the limited information provided. After 2002, most people involved in the creation of these games would not make anything related to visual novels again, at least not that I'm aware of. I attempted to get into contact with some of the people behind the game, but to no avail, as well as some collectors. They said essentially the same thing, that there's very little information available on the game. It seems the group of creators were ambitious, but perhaps due to the abstract nature of their creative vision, their games did not appeal well to the market and it fell through. Really? We have no idea. All we are left with is the games themselves and some old website relics. Now let's talk about the game itself. I wish I had a copy of ODEON to show you in video, but unfortunately I'm not in the position to flex that hard yet. But from what I know, in its completed form it comes with an art book as well as a box for the game. Upon starting ODEON on a modern OS, it is clear it comes with some kinks. If you alt-tab, this happens, which honestly looks awesome. If you press the F3 key, you open an FPS tracker. The options menu is bare bones, and you're pretty much only able to start and load the game with no CG viewer. However, this program released a month after the game was able to dump all of the images of the game in BIMP files. Once starting the game, you go through each segment of the game through scenes you pick out called memories. The objective is to increase the number in the top right to be as high as possible. The number increases by watching memories within each chapter. Each chapter is referred to as a karma, and there are 14 of them including the ending. The ending you get is determined by what your number is at the end of the game. I don't really think I could explain the story, so it's not something I'm going to even attempt to do, but it's very disjointed and jumps around through time and is difficult to understand with lots of different concepts occurring at once. You can tell, however, that the game takes lots of inspirations from serial experiments Lane and Evangelion in its direction and also with some of the things that occur within the game, as well as some of the designs. The main story is about a girl named Mirai, and then lots of crazy happens that aren't really easily explainable, involving computers, ancient civilizations, researchers uncovering strange things underground, lots of human experiments, going to school with friends, hitting up the club, whatever this is appearing in the subway, this man appearing from your phone, and Yeah. If you don't make a lot of save points, it is unlikely you will get the true ending, as every choice affects the top right number, and the 6th choice for every chapter advances you to the next chapter. So if you play the 6th choice without viewing the rest of the choices, you lose out on those points. If anyone cares about spoilers, I'm going to spoil the game. The game ends with you becoming one with whatever this thing is, and then triggers the ending. The last scene of the true ending shows you getting dropped off at school by your dad and meeting with your friends, so maybe it's a happy ending? I honestly would not be able to tell you. The previous games before ODEON, as well as the games after ODEON that were worked on by similar people, are more coherent. The main games that are associated with ODEON are the 2002 released One Night Heaven and Izanagi Densho 2010 Banki Tanjo. But in 1999, Aoki Shinjuku appears to be the first game Hakuya Ugetsu, the artist from ODEON, and Shimodate Tadashi would work on together for a separate company called Penguin Works. It's interesting to note that Penguin Works also stopped producing games in late 2002, so perhaps there's a connection between all these companies. I could not record any footage for One Night Heaven and Izanagi Densho, but based on what I've seen, the games themselves are all sort of odd in their own way, but nowhere near ODEON and how bizarre they are. Aoki Shinjuku is a game I have access to, however, and has quite a cool visual style, with a sort of dystopian story about Shinjuku in the future. Year 2017, after massive floods and coming into contact with a girl who only remembers life before the floods. The game also features many 3D animation AVI files, which are always awesome to look at. Overall, the exact details of the production of these games and why things all seem to stop by the end of 2002 is likely going to be something that is never fully known. It's unfortunate, however, as it would have been cool to see more of the creative vision the creators had in mind for their future projects. Games like ODEON are special for a reason. I might end up making more videos about some of the other old school visual novel games that tend to go for high prices online, but who knows. But yeah, that's all I got, so shout out to the Denpa e-girls out there and the old visual novel game collecting community. Y'all some real ones. Peace!